Welcome to our first hangout of March for the Academic Outreach Committee. So I thank you for taking the time and contributing today with us. So again, just a reminder, if you're not chatting, to mute your microphone, and that way we'll kind of limit the background noise. If by chance your microphone isn't working, you can use the little group chat function on the right-hand side, and we can kind of read comments during the session. Oh, Daniel, I think I could hear you.
You did? You hear me okay now? Excellent.
I can hear you now. Awesome. Great to hear. So I think we got all the mics working this time, which is great to see. So we are broadcasting live. Actually, this was one of our most popular online discussions through various communication mechanisms. We had really long wait lists. So there might be some folks viewing us, and hello if you're viewing us streaming on YouTube. And we opened up a fourth session because it was so popular. So thanks all for adding to the rich discussion today. So I thought we'd maybe open it up and just briefly introduce ourselves, kind of popcorn style, you know, where we are, what we're doing, and maybe if you're getting snow or not snow or cold, or what's the weather like, so I can dream that I might be in one of your more desirable locations. So I'm Kristen Mastel. I'm your facilitator for today. I'm at, if you can't tell, the University of Minnesota, and I'm on the St. Paul campus, and I'm an outreach and instruction librarian there. So with that, I'll turn it over to anyone else that wants to go next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ray Pun. I am an instruction and research services librarian at Alder Graduate School of Education out in the Bay Area in California. So I used to do a lot of exhibit work and outreach as a first-year experienced librarian at Fresno State in California. And there's no snow here. Sorry, Kristen.
Awesome, thanks. I might come visit you soon. Elizabeth, do you want to go next?
Sure. Hi, I'm Elizabeth Thomas. I am the Access Services and Outreach Librarian at Monterey Peninsula College. That is Central California. The weather is looking nice. It's cold, but cold for California, but not cold for the rest of the United States. It was raining really hard for a while there, but it's cleared up now. And so this is my second semester, so I just want to come in and learn a little bit more about what other people are doing for exhibits.
Great. So nice to meet you, and thanks for joining. How about Eden? You want to say hi?
Hi, everyone. I'm Eden Parks. I'm the co-facilitator, so I will be quiet, taking notes for the most part. But I'm at Towson University. We're right outside of Baltimore, Maryland. This is a really interesting topic for us because we are about to bring, so I'm very interested to see what you all say and take lots of notes on it. We're about to bring the What You Were Wearing exhibit to Towson. So if you're not familiar with that, it's an exhibit with recreations of the clothing worn by sexual assault survivors. So we're bringing that to our campus. It'll be in the library. So we're very excited. It's a big exhibit. So I'm really curious what everyone else is doing and your experience with this as well. So hello, everyone.
Thanks, Eden, and feel free to like chime in too to the discussion if you would like. So how about Dawn? Do you mind saying hi?
Hey everyone, it's listed as Dawn, but I go by Nikki, and I am at Georgia Southern University in Statesboro, Georgia, and we are a beautiful 71 degrees and very spring-like today. And I am a research services librarian, but also do quite a lot of exhibits as an extension of my teaching and basically just as a creative outlet.
Nice, nice. Perfect, thank you. And Daniel.
Are you still hearing me okay? Yeah, so my name is Daniel Smith. I am the Research, Instruction, and Digital Services Librarian at Garrett Evangelical Theological Seminary, which is in Evanston. It's on the campus of Northwestern, so we're one of the libraries, a part of Northwestern University. And as a part, of course, I mentioned that I do a lot of instruction as my job, but We're a small staff and it's a small graduate library, so there are 5 of us on staff, and we kind of share responsibilities for digital services. And as far as displays are concerned, we kind of collaborate based upon what our needs are, so it kind of varies each time. But as far as weather, here in Chicago, it's in the 30s, but it's at least sunny. That's an improvement. I like when the sun comes out.
Yes, yes, we have sunshine today too in Minneapolis. And we're getting your rain, I think that Elizabeth said, or Ray, tomorrow. So, and then last but not least for now, Beth.
Hi, I'm Beth Parrish. I'm a Senior Library Associate in Government Documents at Auburn University, Montgomery. Yes, it's nice and sunny here in Montgomery, Alabama. I do a lot of our displays here, and we host a lot of big events that I help out with, and I'm part of the Library Promotional Events Subcommittee.
Ooh, awesome. I like that you said you have like a subcommittee. So we'll kind of talk about that and logistics and who does exhibits and how that's all set up at your institutions. And it may differ. I know a lot of us are at larger institutions and like single library locations. So again, lots of different experiences here. So thank you. So I'm going to kind of just jump in to the discussion questions. If you have questions, like seriously, just bring them up, or we don't have to stick to this like a script. So we'll just kind of start with the first one and see where that goes. But I'm kind of curious, what kind of goals, do you have goals around exhibits and displays? What types of goals do you have? Is that a part of your institution where that is an expectation or not? So we're going into goal writing season here at my institution. So I would love to hear what all your experiences are around this.
So at Monterey Peninsula College, we don't have any formal goals and we're not expected to, but one of my goals is just community-based, just including the exhibits to reflect what our campus community looks like. So I'm trying to, I've been involving a lot of different clubs and departments, academic departments, and faculty and students on campus in every exhibit.
When you said that you include them, are they like co-creating them with you, or do they get exhibit space, or could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Some of them have been co-created and some of them I'm having them just do it. But I've been kind of helping them along to make sure they display well.
Yeah, where I worked at Fresno State. Can you hear me okay? Okay,
Yep.
Great. And it was actually largely based on pop-up exhibits that were part of the Library Diversity Committee that I was part of. So, usually the committee itself has specific values, goals, or charges. And what we would do is we have a space in the library to have an exhibit similar to what Elizabeth was saying, collaborating with student groups, community members, as well as faculty to raise awareness of any kind of diversity-related matter, or some holiday, or something that connects to the library. So what resources do we have to promote, for instance, the Persian New Year, Nowruz, because a faculty member from the Persian Studies department wanted us, had our own collection too, like not necessarily just books, but like materials from the ritual and holidays and so forth to showcase. So I think we did a lot of like pop-up exhibits whenever there was a need to like collaborate and just generally bring awareness. So that reflected on the informal goals that we had, which was largely supporting the library's effort in promoting diversity values in the university.
Thanks. Any other comments?
Yeah, I was going to say, oh, go ahead, Dawn.
Okay, I don't know if we per se have goals, but mostly we've been trying to tie these to some of our instruction and along with some of our programs that we've been offering. So we've been trying to tie these very closely to the ACRL framework and our learning objectives for whatever class or instructional session we're doing or the actual program that we're doing. Really been trying to move our exhibits out of the quote unquote exhibit spaces, because we have these exhibit cases that I refer to as the coffins, and they very much look museum like, and they don't really participate a lot. They don't really generate a lot of interaction. So we've really been trying to kind of move them out and make them what I call kind of free floating, so that they're not in cases, so that students can interact with them more and feel that they are welcome to check out any of the materials that maybe we pull from our collection to highlight in there as well, because even though we always said they were allowed to do so, when they're in those cases, there's kind of that barrier and they don't feel like they're welcome. So that's kind of the approach we've been taking lately.
I love that. And actually, this wasn't part of like our idea, but this topic I think lends itself well. I wish we all had like cameras and you could show us your current exhibit space, but like Nikki, I would love to like see that. I think it would be really cool if you all like, if you have an interesting exhibit or a past exhibit that you really liked, in the chat, and I'll send it in the reminder, like the thank you. We have a survey at the end, but it would be really great to see some of these. And we're going to share our notes afterwards. So I just popped in the ULSAOC Gmail email. So if you did feel open to like sharing what one of these pop-up looks like, or how you've like, I love the idea of tying it into the framework. I haven't even thought of that. So if you have an example of that written up, or to see your exhibits gone wild, like where people can actually touch and see, I love that. So sorry, that's just an idea right off the top of my head that we can enrich our notes with some of these examples. But Daniel, you were gonna chat next.
Yeah, of course. So we're a smaller campus, as I mentioned. I'm at graduate school, so we have like about 500 FTE students. So it makes it very easy. It's a smaller campus, and we don't really have any explicit or official goals, but a lot of times they center around whatever's happening in the life of the seminary or in the life of the church, and we kind of do those seasonal, and sometimes they're very much planned. Like we usually plan for a year in advance, and kind of know what's happening. But of course, we also allow some flexibility to generate some random ones, or kind of organic, or they just pop up at different times, and such as something we recently did based upon something that happened in the life of the church. So we kind of allow some flexibility, but there's some rigid structure there. And I think our overall goal, though, is just to connect, of course, the library with the larger life of what's happening around us. But then more, it's about just exposing all of our users to the different resources that they have that could connect to whatever's happening in their life for their own research.
Nice, thank you. Any other thoughts?
Can y'all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, here at AUM, we don't really have any official roles. My goals are going to be educational and entertaining as I can. I also like to try, if I can, to incorporate some level of ADA accessibility to my displays and events. You were talking about how you have flexibility in your schedule. We do too. A lot of our stuff is planned. We have one major event every year. It's our annual library open house held during Halloween, because our school colors are orange and black. So it's a great event. We get a lot of students in for that. And then we have displays that go along with that. And we have our seasonal displays. And then we have flexibility for displays that go along with events just out in the world, like our solar eclipse display that we had here in government documents that saw a lot our stats go up with our national publications, and we have displays and events that go along with the events that go through. We have a tall library tower. 10th floor is open space for different events for all across campus, and we create displays that go along with them, like the Southern Outlaw Conference. And I talked with the English department that is in charge of that. It's a part of their Robin Hood studies, so it's all outlaw based, and that was a very fun exhibit to collaborate with them about.
Nice, thanks, Beth. In the beginning, you kind of mentioned ADA and your exhibits and displays. Could you just talk a little bit more about how you try to do that? And actually, I'm going to jump to that and ask that of everyone, how you try to make exhibits and displays more ADA accessible, because that is, you know, when you're dealing with actual physical objects or things being displayed, that could pose a challenge. So I'd be curious to hear what others' experiences, including yours, are around that.
Yes, it can be challenging. One thing is to keep in mind the font sizes and image sizes that you use in displays. When we have basically a gallery space up here in Gov Documents because we had enough clear wall space, and I keep in mind like how far from the ground they are. And when we have our scavenger hunts, I try to make sure I'm not using like real small things or keep getting real hidden. No, I try to keep them like a certain height from the ground. That way, if somebody's in a wheelchair or need assistance, it's really to see these items, but they're still hidden enough in the stacks, which we have 5 floors that they can hide stuff in, plus government documents on the other side.
Oh, those are great suggestions and ideas. Thank you. Any other thoughts around that?
I'll just chime in really quick. One thing we've tried to do, our library is accessible, but it definitely has room for improvement. You know, just things like some of our doors to spaces aren't automated. So, you know, that's a huge problem when you're thinking about like this is a space for students that's supposed to be 24 hours a day, but you've, you know, not allowed that access. So, but thinking about our displays and exhibits, we've been trying to do what Beth mentioned, really think about the sizes of what we're using. We have one display that's a gondola that's just, you know, we curate a collection of items from our stacks. That thankfully has different levels. So it's generally, that one's pretty good because it's not too tall, or, you know, there are levels so you don't have to bend down as well. But we do have some glass cases for displays, and those we've had to be really careful because in the past, just turning it over and saying, hey, mind doing this display, we found that people will try and put a lot in it because it's like, oh, I just want to put everything in these 2 cases, and there's only 2 cases, so everything has to go in it. And then you end up with 12-point font, and that's a disaster. So we've really tried to take a minimalist approach and do less of a display, but try and elevate the quality of it and the size of it so it's more legible. And I think even though it's maybe not as, you know, I like, as you look behind me, it's not as cluttered as I might do myself. It's, I think, a lot more friendly to our students, our faculty and staff as they're coming through, regardless of their accessibility level.
Thanks so much, Eden.
I was going to say, when we're creating different displays, I always try to include some sort of like movie, video, something like that. And when I do that, I try to select ones that have subtitles available, because you'd be surprised at the number of videos. And at least I was, when I started looking with that eye of like trying to make sure that subtitles were available, that they weren't actually there. And like a lot of other people, you try to make sure that they're at a level that are accessible, but in a place that folks can easily move around, I think is always helpful. And then when we have some sort of interactive element, like, it could be as simple as a laptop that has some sort of web page on it or something like that. I try to make sure that that's at a level, and that the screen, any sort of screen viewing tools that are needed are available there and clearly accessible. It kind of seems to work.
Yeah, that's a good point. We back in November 2016, the diversity committee at Fresno State, we worked on a travel exhibit that was sort of like a grant kind of program. It was sponsored by ALA for this exhibit called Native Voices. I'm not sure if they still do it this time around, but 2 years ago when they had the call, we requested collaboration with the American Indian Studies faculty and worked together to put the grant, I keep saying grant, it's actually a travel exhibit application together. And from there, the exhibit came, and we had about, I think, maybe a good month or so having the exhibit in our library to demonstrate Native American wellness, health, and so forth. But it was interesting because I noticed that it included obviously the ADA compliances, like with the subtitles. It was a multimedia really exhibit, so it had all that feature. I think one of the things that was interesting was that sometimes when you get these traveling exhibits, you really can't, you can sort of facilitate some of the ADA, but it's sort of like you really have no other control, like what's given, without sort of changing the actual, like how much do you want to change, right? Something that's given to you, so that you want to be as authentic with the exhibit. So I think we had, I don't know if we had done like separate transcripts, because sometimes it could be really hard to see the text too on the screen. But the fact is that we had a lot of discussions about that. And then I think it was also inside in a separate space in the library that required people opening doors. So there was also that element that now that I hear other people saying, it kind of rein in that I think ADA more focused would be ideal, like from our part, to ensure that. And that's something I'm just curious about other folks, whether they receive some, traveling exhibit and whether they have to like facilitate the ADA or like make some changes.
Yeah, I guess Eden, since you're getting kind of a large traveling exhibit, you'll probably run into that a bit. I know here at the University of Minnesota, we've received some of those large exhibits, and we've tied in other programming to it, and we have had to do some adaptations working with like our diversity resource center on campus and things, to support students and staff that are interested in some of these larger ones. So I don't know if, depending on your institutions, you might have like a diversity resource center that's outside of the library that can provide some of that support like we've had in the past. All right. We can certainly chat more about this, but I might move us along to like kind of the planning and staffing kind of themes around exhibits and displays. I know, Daniel, you mentioned in the beginning that you schedule things out for like a calendar year, but are flexible to do things, as things come up. So I'm kind of curious how you all do that. Are you on a calendar year, or do you kind of go with the flow? I know at my institution, we kind of do a combo of that. So yeah, if you want to just talk about scheduling and calendaring. And it looks like, Sheila, it looks like you were able to join us.
Yes.
Thank you for joining us.
I just can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, I just came from another meeting.
Oh, no problem. Do you want to just quickly introduce yourself?
I'm Sheila Kervin. I'm at New Jersey City University in Jersey City, New Jersey. It's very redundant. I'm an education librarian. So, yeah. Perfect. And the most I do are book displays. We don't have much PR outreach right now. So if I could get a few ideas,
Yeah, great. So we're just talking about like our system of like do we come up with displays quarterly, yearly? Do you do pop-ups? Do you
Just going to close my office door, which I forgot to do. Just one moment.
Oh, sure. Or do you all use like a calendaring app or something like that? If you all want to, feel free to chime in.
Yeah, we have just started using a Google Sheet. So this is the first time we've tried scheduling it all. And basically we're going by the academic year. So people are just doing it kind of whatever they're interested in and putting it down. If there's any kind of overlap or appears to be conflict, it's just kind of worked out between the individuals as to what they're going to do and where they're going to do it. And as I said, this is the first year we've been scheduling it quite this much. So we're just kind of feeling it out and seeing how it goes. But so far it's been kind of nice. And it's really nice to be able to pull up that sheet and see what other folks have planned as the academic year is progressing. So you kind of get an idea of what may be coming up next. And, you know, if you want to get with that person and maybe try to collaborate or ask them some questions or offer any kind of insight or whatever, it gives you that opportunity.
Nikki, is it like everyone gets an exhibit or display for X amount of time? Is it like, is there a certain block of time? Or
yeah, most of us just kind of decide, like obviously if someone is doing something for a special month, say Women's History Month, they're pretty much going to do it, you know, for the span of March or whatever. We have 3 going on right now that are kind of overlapping through the months because we did them during Data Week, basically, Love My Data Week. But because of the programming we were offering, so we made sure they were up a couple of weeks before the programming so that we could use the exhibits as kind of promotion for the programming. And now they're staying up a little bit after, and especially our main one, Garbology, because we have 3 specific classes, 2 anthropology and 1 sociology class, that are requiring their students to come over and participate in that exhibit for credit. So we want to make sure we keep that one up long enough for all of those students to have an opportunity to come over here.
So this is my second semester working on exhibit spaces, and so right now we have 2 exhibit spaces that are permanent, and then we have a pop-up that we use every once in a while, and that's just informally. But the 2 exhibits, I'm using Google Calendars because I can display it onto a separate website to kind of promote it on campus. I'm hoping it's kind of taking off slowly, but I'm hoping people on campus will look at it and give me ideas and want to participate more. And we do this, I'm doing it kind of monthly right now, but that may change if I'm not getting the amount of people that I need to fill the exhibit spaces.
So we used a Google Calendar because it was to internally and externally. Internally, so that the administration, facilities, other people who, including our library technology folks, if we had multimedia, could know when the exhibits would run and could see like what they need to help assist us as the diversity committee with. And I think that was instrumental in communicating, but like not having to like email them constantly so they can just see what and how long the displays would be up there. The other thing was external, because then people can see like what exhibits coming up from the library. But we usually start planning like in the summer, and then we would give maybe like each exhibit like a month or 2, because it does take time from people's work to like set up and take down and collaborate with whoever to set it up. So I think it was carefully managed to like scaffold it like about like a month or 2, but sometimes we would have like shorter exhibits, and then that was what created this idea that we should make them longer. And then unfortunately that then would reduce other opportunities, and we would say, well, it's already filled for the spring, how about like the fall? Then we would sort of build those efforts into our calendar and discuss it during the summer as a committee and for the academic year. So I think one of the key is when it comes to just sort of like, according to this question, addressing this issue of calendar and structuring, it really is communication. There's just so many moving pieces, and having sort of like either a Google Sheet or as Google Docs, as someone mentioned earlier, or some sort of like central item for internal communication would be like really helpful for folks who are part of the committee or setting up the exhibits.
I agree. Communication is essential. AUM actually has a campus-wide communications department, and they send out a weekly email with all the events that are going on campus. You can send your events to them for them to publish and send out to the whole campus. Internally, we communicate through the Outlook calendar function, and that's been a great way for us to keep up with scheduling of displays and meetings and all that. As far as scheduling, we pretty much know we're going to have seasonal stuff up. That just kind of goes on top of like our browsing case and our windows and things like that. Then we have 5 display cases, and they're pretty much divided up into 3 groups. And the one on the second floor gets most traffic. It's the one that we try to incorporate and schedule in things that go on with the rest of the campus. And that sometimes we go out and talk to the departments, or they plan it with us, or it's just an internal thing that we want to promote. And government documents, it's usually just an internal thing that we want to promote, but we work with our departments. And when we have a big event, we use our social media accounts, and we just blast them with a picture of our display, hey, come check out this. And that sees a lot of students and other patrons see our displays because of that.
Nice. Yeah, it looks like a lot of us are using some combination of Google tools or calendaring and sheets and things, and we certainly do that here. So that's great to see. And Beth, you kind of hinted as to one of our other topics, and I know Sheila, you mentioned you were interested in talking about promotions. So yes, we can use like Google Calendars. It's great. Like we have one internally, but why not make that public so other people can see what's coming up? Love that idea. Not doing that yet, but I'm probably going to after today. So thanks for that. But kind of curious if folks want to talk about next kind of exhibits and displays and how you kind of do promotion, how you hook people, how do you tie it to events. So if you wanted to kind of talk about the promotion and marketing piece, would be great to hear, because maybe not all of us have access to, a weekly calendar. So what are some other avenues that you all try?
Yeah. We do anything we can, as most people do. It goes up on our social media. It does go on the calendar. Our library website, we have a news spot on the front page of the library's website, so we make sure it's highlighted there. We typically do LibGuides to support any of our exhibits. So we will target specific faculty, especially if we notice they are teaching anything that we feel like would kind of correlate with whatever we're doing and benefit. We will send it out specifically. That's how we ended up with the 3 specific classes who are being required to do the garbology exhibit. When they correlate with programs such as our graphic novels last time, obviously on any of the flyers and promotions for the programming, we also mentioned that there was a display. And with any of our displays anymore, we're trying to add at least one kind of active learning question that we're required or asking. We don't require, obviously, students to kind of participate in and do that. Word of mouth, like I said, targeted emails, LibGuides, social media, we try to hit as much as we possibly can with them.
When you say like active learning question, do you have like a whiteboard that's connected to your exhibits or displays? Could you give me an example?
We've done that right now with our garbology exhibit. And if you're unfamiliar with that one, it's based on the original where you sift through trash basically and try to answer some questions. Because it correlated with our data, we kind of framed it into what kind of data can you pull from household trash. So we do have a table of trash out there that we ask them to pilfer through. And we have 3 questions that we need them to answer. And on a wall, we have this one kind of out in a high traffic area, and we've used a big blank wall to go with it. With washi tape, we have created a yes/no grid. So we really made these kind of simple yes/no answers for the questions like, do you think it's a single person household or do you think this is a multi-person household? Would you say that this household is lower income or, you know, middle or whatever? And we have a yes, no, and we have these little thumbs ups that we're asking them to pin on the wall to answer the question. So we've got about 100 or so participants who have posted little yes and no thumbs ups on the grid. And now for the classes that are coming, we have an additional sheet that they will be handed, because it was really important to the professors that they also get into that concept that, yes, you're inferring from these, you know, this garbage, but it's possible to infer incorrectly. So the professor has provided some additional questions for those students in the class to kind of get into that, you know, kind of the more, what makes you think it's single person household? What are you seeing that says that to you? We didn't want it to be that involved for people just interacting with the display because we figured they wouldn't stop and stand there that long. So we made the display itself very quick, yes, no. On the graphic novel one, what we had was a scientist who was tired of thinking that his work was only reaching other professionals. And so he took one of his scholarly peer-reviewed research articles and worked with an artist from the Savannah College of Art and Design and created a graphic novel based on that research article. So he came and presented a program about that collaboration and how difficult it was for a scientist and an artist to kind of work together and to convey the same information. So we highlighted other graphic pieces, but we had the article and his graphic novel together, and we asked students, do you think, you know, what audience does this format reach? Does it reach a broader audience than the specifically scholarly article? Yes, no, why do you think so? And they actually wrote it out on pieces of paper that we had. We asked for 3 to 5 sentences, and then they left it in a box for us to look at later. And we shared those out on the LibGuide and on the website as well. And that was really long and lengthy. I apologize, y'all.
No, it's great. And I'm totally following up with you about your garbology exhibit, because yes. So, or if you want to email us your LibGuide and some pictures, that would be amazing. Other folks?
Am I unmuted? For us, we're just starting. We've just started an exhibit committee. The most that we do right now are just book displays tied to campus events and whatever else is happening in the world, just to stimulate people to look at books and take them out. But we have a full-fledged faculty-driven exhibit committee, and we're trying to dedicate a space in the library for exhibits. So we're still in the planning stages, and we have a lot of professors like you who are doing things that either create exhibits as student output or might bring in faculty research, and we want to bring in the community too. The plan we have right now is to get a part-time director of exhibits or part-time exhibit designer, but do you all design your own exhibits, or is this librarian-led? It seems that it is, that you are acting as a facilitator plus of PR. You're a jack of all trades, it seems, right? Is that correct?
On my end, yes, but to be fair, my degrees are in art.
Oh, okay.
And I'll just chime in that at the University of Minnesota, we have 12 libraries, so most of like the smaller like case displays are librarian or committee communication, small group committee driven, but we do have a professional exhibit designer and creator for kind of the archive special collections, where they have like a big space that they create interactive kind of exhibits on a quarterly basis. So we do have someone, but they're kind of dedicated for that unit mostly.
Yeah, I was going to add that it's interesting. One of my colleague is a professional photographer. So one of the things, and his work is not like, he's not an art librarian or anything. He just likes to take really great photos, and we used his strength to take pictures of the exhibit. And then I had access to the university's Twitter account. So then he would send me the photos, and then we would put it on social media, and it would just draw a lot of attraction to like what we're coming and what we're doing next. So if you have colleagues who really love taking photos, or if you have cameras that are really great quality, that's something you could utilize and tap into. And student workers, you have a lot of students who are always with their phones, and their photos they could share in a contest. That's what we did for one of our social media things, to get people to share photos of exhibits that we had, to take pictures. And then some of them would be featured in the student paper. So that if you could broadcast that out into the student newspaper, would get a lot of traction as well. And I had mentioned about LibGuide earlier. I think Dawn had mentioned it. We included a lot of readings to back up the exhibits. So if people wanted to find out more, usually that doesn't draw a lot of traction because I think people just like to see the visuals as opposed to like, oh, I actually have to read about it. But what's great is that the LibGuide itself can be integrated in a course, right? You design the reading list, or you put a summary of collections, and then you put it in a course to be shared, so the faculty can like tie it into however they like based on their curriculum, which worked really well for this other activity we did. I had, this was about in 2016, we were remembering the Executive Order 9066, which designated Japanese Americans and Japanese descent to concentration camps. It was the 75th anniversary, trying to like remember that. And so there was a huge exhibit, and this was done by the special collections. So sometimes I think that question about librarian-led, it's interesting because it's different groups. There's like the special collection folks, they have their own exhibits, and then there's like the general library group, they have their own. And then with that being said, what I did was to support their exhibit. I mean, we're all colleagues. So I did a lot of outreach. I did a Wikipedia edit-a-thon. So I had an event collaborating with the Asian American Studies, History Department, and Sociology, and so forth, and Ethnic Studies, to bring together basically resources so that students, faculty, community members can participate editing Wikipedia entries using what's in the exhibit. Because there's a lot of primary sources that are being showcased. There are a lot of archival materials. And then they had created facsimile, and it was really great to bring in this sort of open public event, tying it into an exhibit that was sort of like bridging sort of like things that are print and exhibit physical based into something that's digital. Like you're updating Wikipedia, because there are apparently a lot of voices that were not captured. People who survived the incarceration camps, and then they had made a lot of policy changes to prevent this kind of tragedy from happening again in America. So I think those lost voices, and we have archival documents, why not put them all and cite them back to the exhibit and to the collection? So that's sort of like some of the points I just wanted to share.
Thanks so much, Ray. Other comments around promotion, marketing?
I'm just going to chime in really quick. I think going off what a few of you have mentioned, if you're not using your students as a secret weapon, definitely use them as your marketing and promotion secret weapon. We have here 3 students, are A-listers, who really work specifically to do sort of viral marketing for us to help us plan our events, our displays, and to spread the word to their peers. And we've had great success with that. So especially if you have the budget or have the ability, if you have a student position that it's like, well, we might be able to rethink this. If you can rethink it in a way that has that sort of built into it, so that expectation of, share out about our programs and our events, take this with you. Another thing, we don't have access to Snapchat. The university has a university Snapchat, and we can request to take it over, but we can't have a library Snapchat. But we took it over for National Library Week last year, and one of our students, we had a display up, and she made a geo filter for Snapchat. It did cost a little bit of money. It wasn't an extravagant amount, but we ended up with over 20,000 engagements on that geo filter, which was massive for us. We were like, whoa, we can't believe we had this type of success with this. So even though we didn't get, that would be basically our whole campus, they didn't come in for that, but we know we had that many people look at it at one point or another. So if you're not using that, but might have the ability to use it or get a student to do something in Snapchat for you, if you have full access, that would be even better. But even if you're like us and have to request a university takeover, I would highly recommend it, because I was, shocked. We usually use Instagram and Facebook, Twitter, but our students keep telling us, like, please switch to Snapchat. That's where we're at. That's where we're at. So we had good success with that. So that was a neat thing to try.
So Eden, I have a follow-up question. Do you or somebody sort of monitor the student content before it goes live?
Well, no. So it's a little convoluted. There's actually a university iPhone that has the official Towson Snapchat app on it. So there's like one phone with the app on it, and that is the only phone that can access it. And I'm sure someone in marketing has the actual password and whatnot. They don't give it out to just anyone. So the phone, you have to fill out a lot of forms. So there definitely was a lot of sort of, I think, preliminary investigation, like, can they trust us with the phone? We didn't just give it to any student. We gave it to these students who are in leadership roles in the library. But we did request specifically, for the student to use it, not for a staff member. But they do have, and I can rummage and see if I can find it and see if I can share that out, but they do have rather detailed forms about how long you want to use the app, what you intend to do, and they don't really monitor us once you get the phone, but beforehand you kind of have to say your intention with the Snapchat, like, what are you going to do? So for us, it's like, we're going to use this to go around the library, take pictures of our exhibit, and also we're going to go up to some students in the library and ask them their personal story with our library to share out via a quick little video snap.
Nice, thanks. Well, I realized, so we're down to like 7 minutes. And so I just kind of want to open it up if someone has a question that they really want, or if you want to share something exciting or a great example at your institution, or even something that flopped and something you learned from it. I'm kind of going to leave these last few minutes for kind of quick. Well, how about we just go a quick round? There's like 7 of us. We can do like one last thought per person and or a question. So why don't I jump to you, Beth?
All right, so I don't really have a question, but I would say my last thought would be when you put up your displays to judge feedback, the biggest thing you do is listen to your patrons. And if you want to find out, why aren't they coming to your display, go up there to where to the people who aren't coming. Just post something like maybe a game night on campus, and just while you're sitting there chatting there with them and playing with them, ask, hey, what would you like to see in our displays or our events?
Nice. And it looks like Daniel on my list, you're next, and you commented that you'd love to hear how people assess their displays and exhibits. So maybe that's something else if anyone has something to add to that when they chime in. But feel free, Daniel, if you have anything else.
I was going to say thank you all for sharing. I feel like we haven't been as intentional as we could have been about our displays, and I don't think we've been as collaborative as we could have been. So I really appreciate hearing about how all of you have been very collaborative with your different displays. And I think we've just kind of done it sort of like an internal library model where we just decide what they look like. And I think there's a lot of room for improvement and expansion there. So thank you for sharing that. That's definitely a key takeaway for me.
Thanks, Daniel. How about Nikki?
Hey, yeah, assessment is hard. Just answering Daniel's question. So, and we try to pull a variety if possible. For instance, if we have books and other materials from the collection in the display, obviously, if they do move and get checked out, we will count that as part of our assessment. For things like the graphic novel, obviously we counted how many people actually interacted and answered our question that we provided. Plus, we know that at least one FYE class utilized the LibGuide that we created in the class. So we could see that spike in the usage and could count that as well. For Garbology, obviously, we'll be counting how many of those little thumbs up and thumbs down are on the wall, not to mention the number of students who come in from the 3 classes to actually participate. So it's just kind of whatever we can garner from the exhibits is what we use to assess them.
Great, thanks. How about Elizabeth?
As we're talking, I'm creating a please leave a comment book that I'm going to try to put out right now for our exhibits, because I'm trying to, create more interaction and try to see what people, I'm listening to you guys, seeing what you, what students want to see in our exhibits. So that's what I'm doing right now.
Thanks. Ray?
Yeah, so I wanted to add that I think it depends on the agenda of your exhibit. If it's awareness, then I feel like the assessment part, you could sort of be more lax or informal about it. But for like things that you want to address learning outcomes, we had done stuff working with the like visual merchandising or fashion class where they would set up the exhibit, the students, and then they would do a peer review of each other, peer evaluation. And then, in class, the professor would give feedback. Oh, it's so great. The students get that real experience. And then another example is I had coordinated for first year STEM. So all the students in the first year STEM program, they would have to set up posters in the library, and then they would have to peer evaluate the posters at another time. And the poster stays in the library for like a couple of weeks, for as an exhibit, not necessarily the exhibit we're curating, but more like a scientific kind of a process. So it's a good way for students to evaluate each other. I think that would be another way to do that.
For me, time to go. Yeah, my time. Yeah, this has been just a great way I can now go back to the committee, and these are things that we did not think about. We did not think about assessment. We did not think about, we talked about scheduling, but in a much more formal way. But this gives me a lot of ideas that we could probably get this initiative ahead much quicker, and I like the idea of the LibGuides and tying it in to coursework, because we thought of just using the end products of coursework as exhibits, but we could be heavily involved with the research, etc., during the coursework. So this has been most helpful. Thank you all very much.
Yeah, this has been great. And yeah, I like, Beth, you typed on the side that you could use like dummy books. Because actually, like at our institution, we get rid of all the book covers. I don't know if anyone else at your institution do, but we tend to save them in my library just to create other displays with them or to use them with our button maker to repurpose them in other ways for art and other things. But yeah, to save those and put another book inside of it so people think that's the book and that's in the case, but the real book they could actually like check out. So I love that comment. But this has been such like a rich discussion. I really wish we had like a second hour because I bet we all have way more to share. So I would encourage you if there's other thoughts that you have and examples, certainly send it to that our uls.aoc@gmail.com. I'll send that in the little thank you notice. And then we have 3 more discussions, so you are welcome to watch them on YouTube, either live or as a follow-up. And we're going to condense Eden. Thank you for being a note taker extraordinaire today. And we're going to collapse all of them down into themes and kind of post those to the Academic Outreach Committee Connect site. So you can look for some more ideas from the other discussions there. But thank you all so much for your time and your great ideas. Like I'm stealing so much from all of you, which is great. But thank you for your time. Please do fill out the survey that I will send you in like 2 minutes, like in the next week if you have time, because we're always looking for more great ideas of topics for future discussions. And yeah, and hopefully we'll see you at ALA. You can look for the group there. And that's about all I have for today. Have a great rest of your week, everyone.